Yeah, hello, this is Dave from cheapbooks.com playing World of Tanks. The tank I am playing is the Valentine 2. This is a Russian Tier 4 light tank, and the map is Siegfried line. I am going to get 7 kills in this game. I'm going to do 1,250 damage, and I'm going to get 1,250 EXP. Now, the Valentine 2 is classified as a light tank. However, it's got very strong armor, and it's not fast like a light tank, so to say it should be a light tank really doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, one thing I want you to do is I want you to look at the mini-map. You're going to notice that there are a lot of light tanks in the game, especially on my team, and you can see that the vast majority of them are somewhat in the center south of the field. And even though I'm a slow tank, it doesn't make sense that me being a slow tank, why should I be approaching the city first? On this map, and in any map, it's safest to be surrounded by solid objects. So you want to get to the city as quickly as possible, number one. My team has failed to do that. It's a big strategic mistake for my team. Although you can play out in the field here because there's a lot of bushes and there's a lot of slopes and hills, but to not be in the city is a huge mistake, and I believe it's because there's a little bit of fear playing in the city because you have to be on your toes. So I understand why people don't want to be there, but it's actually the safest place to be. Number two, you want to deny access to the city to the enemy team. If the enemy team takes over the city, they have a huge strategic advantage. So ideally, you want to rush the city, take control of the city, and prevent the enemy team from entering the city. If you can do that, you'll be under solid cover. You'll be able to reload, protect your tanks, and the enemy will be out in the open. You'll be able to shoot them. They won't be able to hide. They'll be able to get hit by crossfire. So that's why occupying the city is essential in this game, especially the central part of the map and not so much the east side of the city, which is more open. I'm always confused by players who don't understand this concept. You want to control the city. So let's move on. Once you get to this point, you're out of the safe area. Being further back, you have some slopes in front of you. You can see that there's a slope there. I'm on the top of a slope. And there's a slope over here. So once you get to this area, that's the end of your hull down slope protection. And the next line of defense is going to be these mounds over here. After playing this game for a couple of years, I've determined, you've probably heard me say this before if you watch my other videos, the best place on any map to play for the average tank is in the center of the map, which in this case would be E5 and E6, and I used to actually play there. However, the city has its own center, and the center of the city is the E8 region, which is right in front of me where this tall building is. That's the center of the city. When I play on this map now, I head for that building, and if I'm on the south team, I will stay on the south side of the building, and if I'm on the north team, I will stay on the north side of the building. And I'm having very good luck and very successful games. And chances are that's where I'm going to head in this game. When I go here, you'll notice that because there's an open area in front of me, and enemy snipers could easily be up on these hills, and we know that there's a tank over there, I'm going to use all this refuse and rubbish to protect me, and I'm going to probably set up right over here to see if I can get a shot on somebody. And if not, then I advance. Since I don't see anybody, I'm going to advance. And I'm not going to go east. I want to stay as far to the west as possible. And as you can see, I am heading for the location.
Critical hit.
Wow, that is weird. What was I shooting at? Oh, okay. So there was a delay in updating on the map for some reason, but there was a tank there. Now, I'm going to talk about this position real quick. The position I am referring to is this red building, the building next to it, and this white building. And if you draw a line going across or a line going from here across, which I've just crossed over. For example, there's this curb over here. This is the area that I'm referring to when you play on the south side. So you would play in this refuse area, or behind this mound, or you would play over here where this mound of refuse is, or across the street. You do have to be careful because you can get shot through the open areas in this area. And when you're playing on the north, you're going to be playing basically on the other side of these buildings. The reason why this location is the best location is because you can shoot all the way across through the center of the map, presuming that your allies will control what you see to the left of the screen. Anyone that crosses over, you'll be able to have shots on. If you look on the mini-map, I don't think I can point. No, I can't. But if you look at the arrow for the mouse pointer, there's areas that tanks will come out of, alleyways, that you can shoot if they're coming out of those alleyways. So there's 3 or 4 major alleyways on the west side of the city, and anyone that tries to exit those areas, you can take shots on. And in terms of behind you, you can shoot tanks that are in the gap that's on the other side of that column, and you can shoot tanks that peer around the corner over here, and you can shoot any tanks that are in the open area in the middle of nowhere, or anyone who makes it to this building. So that's why this is the ideal location for the southern team. I start out the game over here, and when I believe that my team is controlling the game, I advance to the other side, and I suppress the enemy from the other side of these buildings.
Let's find another target.
You'll note that I guess a minute and a half has elapsed, and my team has still failed to enter the city. I am the only one that has entered the city.
Ready to fire. Enemy armor is hit.
You'll also note that as soon as I fired, I angled my tank so that he will see me at an angle. It's not the best angle. It shows too much of the side of my tank. But you really want the gun pointing to the left of the track. So it should be a little bit more to the left. And you'll see that I adjusted it when I realized it was wrong. And this is a better angle than what it was before, but I still don't think it's the best angle. I think, and it's different for every tank. It has to do with how the turret is centered on the tank. But I believe that a better angle would probably be the gun over that headlight on the Valentine.
Penetration.
You can see that I made another adjustment, and I did aim my gun over the headlight. Let's take a look and see what that angle is. This is a better angle, but I still don't think it's the perfect angle. You want the enemy shots to bounce off your tank. I would still rotate it a little bit. It does take a little bit of practice to figure out the proper angle.
Enemy armor is hit. Enemy vehicle destroyed.
Now you'll notice that there's only one enemy tank on the map. My philosophy in the game is if you want to get lots of kills and you want to do lots of damage and ultimately win the game, you should hunt down enemy tanks. If you see a red dot, even if he's on the other side of the map, you should get closer to him because you may not see the enemy for a long period of time. If they're all sitting at their base camping, you might miss an opportunity. So I highly recommend if you see an enemy tank, go after him. So he disappeared. We've got another tank.
Acquired. We didn't penetrate their armor. Enemy is hit.
Now, I'm not in the closest position, so ideally, I would be better off if I moved to the edge of this red building in order to keep an eye on this T-127. Well, it looks like he's dead now, so it's irrelevant. Now, if you don't know where anyone is, what you're going to do is you're going to peer around the corner. It is dangerous. You're not going to have any cover. The safe way to do it is to do it, obviously, from down in the alley over here, or to move to the left and to peer over, depending on your spotting range. If you have good camo and a good spotting range, it will help hide you. Obviously, on the other side, you have the same situation. So you might peer around and then either sit there or hide.
Permission to engage. Let's find another target. Enemy armor hit. Enemy armor is damaged. We didn't even scratch them. Target acquired. We didn't penetrate their armor. Enemy is hit.
You'll notice that I switched to the gold rounds, and I had a non-penetrating hit, and it would have been nice if I had switched to the gold rounds faster, but I didn't. But I did switch to the gold rounds.
We didn't even scratch them. Enemy armor is destroyed.
Now, ideally, at this point, I would switch back to the normal rounds.
Penetration. Penetration.
Especially if you're shooting at tanks far away. And you can see that I failed to do that. I'm still using the gold rounds, but I should not be right now. Okay, now let's take a look at the score. 7-5. If you look at the mini-map, as far as I know, only one of my allies has entered the city. The rest of them have still failed to enter the city. These tanks that are in the back there, there's absolutely nothing they can do from back in that location to contribute to the team. It just makes no sense for them to be back there. They should have taken a better position, and the Arties are not in good positions either. I would have taken a different position as an Artie. But on this map, it's very difficult to play Artie, so I really don't want to comment too much on the positions they take. Now, as I said, once you have an advantage in the game, and you were playing on the other side, you want to come to this side, which is going to be the other side of the red building, the space in between up until the white building. And you want to control this area to make sure that the enemy doesn't pass through these buildings. So as you can see, I'm turning right. This is the area you want to control. And I want to talk real quickly about this area. This is not a safe area. You can see that there's a big gap over here. And tanks from the south can hit you if you're over here. So be very careful if you're playing in this area. Okay, a shot came from those trees. You can see that I angled my tank and I put the gun to the right of the track. It's not the perfect angle, but it's pretty good.
Let's find another target.
If you look on the minimap, you're going to also notice that there's 2 more tanks that have been spotted.
Ready to fire.
The AMX line of tanks in the low tiers, they actually have very strong armor. So even though I'm 1 tier higher, there's a good chance I won't be able to penetrate his armor. And also, there's a lot of objects in the way, such as this fence post. I've had games where I hit that post, and because of that, my shot did not hit its target.
Let's find another target. Permission to engage.
So as you can see, I switched to the easier target.
Penetration. Enemy is hit. Gotcha.
And you can see that there's obviously a tank on the left that's shooting at me, which means I have to continue moving forward so that the buildings to the left will prevent him from shooting at me. You'll also notice I did a little bit of a zigzag. And the reason why, if you think that a tank might shoot at you, you don't want to head straight towards him. You want to zigzag a little bit so that there's a chance that his shots will miss.
We didn't penetrate their armor. Enemy armor is hit. Enemy armor is damaged. Penetration. Ready to fire. That one didn't go through. Target released. We didn't even scratch them. Critical hit. Got him.
Okay, so I used a lot of rounds on him. I am running low on rounds. I got 4 kills. We know that there's 2 tanks to the left, and apparently there's one behind me.
Ready to fire.
Now, this is a type of situation. The ready to fire message means that I did select him with the auto aim, and as he's driving towards me, the auto aim will work perfectly. If he swerves in any manner, then I would have to aim using the sharpshooter mode, aim manually.
Enemy is hit. Target unlocked.
So I was able to get a shot in. And that type of a tank, if he's far away, he's probably not going to damage my tank. see that that tank is going to cross in front of me any moment now.
Penetration. One of our tracks is damaged.
And as you can see, this Panzer 1C just drove right in front of me, and there were all of his shots did not penetrate. When the audio message said penetration, it was referring to the tank that I was shooting at. The tank that was shooting at me did not penetrate.
Enemy armor is destroyed. Target acquired.
I should have been able to kill him. It's unfortunate that I didn't.
Target released.
But what he did is definitely a good maneuver. He went behind the hill. He did take a little bit of a risk because he had to go out in the open. But what he could have done is he could have hid behind any of these buildings, you know, for about 5 seconds until he became unspotted, and then use his speed to get away, and it probably would have been a better choice. And I don't know if you noticed it, but there was a shot that came from up in the trees, so I believe that there's a chance that there might be a tank right up here, or perhaps an artillery off in the distance. Or maybe that tank that drove by climbed the hill and shot at me. I don't know. If you look at the mini-map, you're going to notice that there's 3 tanks that are still in the south. I don't know if they're AFK or not, but they're certainly not participating in the game. I mean, we know that there's a tank in front of me. We know that there is... yeah, you're going to notice that I jumped ahead a little bit. I've advanced 6 seconds in the game. I ran out of disk space while I was making the recording. It's a pain in the butt to advance 5 or 6 minutes through the game, so we're just going to start over. At this point, I've got 5 kills. I'm going to continue on. So the T-28... I know what he's going to do. He's going to head south. I'm going to chase after him. I'm going to kill him. That's what's going to happen. And my allies are going to make some comments about the T-28. And it's going to show that
Ready to fire.
the Allied the communication from the Allies was really confusing. It confused me. It confused another player.
Where'd they go?
And they were throwing me off. You know, I almost went the wrong way because of what an ally did. And I'll read in the chat what's happening. So I'm heading south, and if you look on the map, an ally is clicking a location on the minimap. And when he did that, I thought, did the tank go that way? And I was like, that can't be possible. I don't think the tank went that way. I was watching it, and if you watch it disappear off the map, it looks like it was continuing to go south. So my ally starts clicking at this location on the map. The enemy artilleries are not there. I happen to know where the artilleries are. And the Panzer 1C isn't there. So he created some confusion because I presume when he clicks on the map that he's identifying where the enemy tank is. And I don't know if the guy was just crazy or not. I have no idea. But he's telling the Matilda to go right. And the Matilda, you can see he just took some damage. And now he's clicking on the map again. And he was just clicking. I'll show you again. He was clicking at the location where I was. So he's clicking on this weird space. I thought, oh, is the T-28 over there? It doesn't make any sense. And then he starts clicking where I am. And it says, Matilda, go right at T-21. I probably missed that. And you notice I'm looking at the right because I was like, the tank's not there. What's he talking about? So now he's clicking at the square that I'm in. And I'm like, why is this guy doing this? And he's going to put another confusing message, which will come up in a moment. It says, to your right, Tard, is what it says. And I'm like, I just looked right. There's nobody there. And there's another ally there. It's not possible for that T-128 to be hiding in between here and there. So he really threw me off. And the Matilda just died, unfortunately. But that goes to show you that my ally really confused me, and I was like, I really don't understand what this message is. So I continued forward, and luckily it did find.
Enemy is hit. Penetration.
Now you see the Matilda says, "Were you talking to me?" So
Enemy armor is damaged.
he was apparently confused too.
Got him.
So that's my 6th kill. And I'd like to point out that the T-28 was not in a good position. He's a very fast tank, and I understand he was killing the Matilda, apparently. I don't know who killed the Matilda. It could have been the Panzer 1C that did. But he's a fast tank. He should get close to the Birch gun. There's usually no advantage to being far away. You want to get closer. You shoot, you move, you shoot, you move, and you get closer and closer and closer. It's to the Birch gun's advantage for him to be far away. And you'll notice that there's an ally, a medium tank, near the spawn. As far as I know, he was there the whole game. So he was not a major participant in this game. I don't know if it's because he's a bot or a new player or what the reason is, but that's the type of thing that happens in the game. And I'm sure that if you watch the whole game, like I said, it was only, I think, me and the one other tank, the Type 95, were the only ones that ventured into the city.
Target acquired. Enemy armor is hit.
Now, the Panzer 1C is going to make a very critical mistake in this game. When you play, you want to be, especially if you have a fast tank, any tank you have, you want to be surrounded by solid objects for defense. Even if you're shooting at other tanks, you shoot in between the gaps. Use the auto-aim, go behind the solid objects. When you're in the gaps, you fire at the enemy, get behind another solid object. What he's going to do is he's going to head for the open, which is that hill. Being in the open, my ally, the Type 95, will have open shots on him. The Hetzer, okay, the Hetzer's far away. I thought the Hetzer was closer to me. And by heading for the hill, it's going to slow his tank down. And by slowing his tank down, it's easier for me and my ally to kill him. But he's going to make one other crucial mistake that you should never, ever, ever, ever do when playing this game. And I hate it when people do it to me, and don't do what the Panzer 1C is going to do. When I was watching the replay, because of the way the game looks, I thought the Hetzer was near the Panzer 1C. But if you look at the mini-map, the Hetzer is really far away. He's 3 sectors away at the enemy cap. So this is the point where the Panzer 1C is going to go up the hill. And you can see he slows down.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
And because he slowed down, it was very easy for me to kill him. The Type 95, based on what I see on the map, he's not in a position to kill the Panzer 1C. But then again, the Panzer 1C didn't really know I was there, so he should have done something different. He should have stayed low. When you go high for defensive reasons, it's not a good idea. When you're defending, you want to stay low, be surrounded by solid objects, be fast when you're out in the open. He made all those mistakes. He did the opposite. Now, I told you he's going to make a critical mistake. You're going to see it in the next second. The critical mistake is that he led us to his allies. There's 2 artilleries left in the game. Let's see what happens next. Right there. What the Panzer 1C did was he drove to where his ally was. And it's possible, because his ally is now reversing, it's possible that his ally was a little bit higher here. So he basically led us to his ally. While we were chasing him, it brought us to the location of his ally. It's a huge mistake. You should never do it. I don't like it when my allies do it. If someone is on my team and they start heading towards me to try and get away from someone, it exposes you. When the enemy is chasing them, they're going to spot you. If he didn't do this, his ally could have stayed hidden. he probably would have killed the Type 95. He might kill the Type 95, I don't know. But it exposed his ally's position. So it was a huge mistake, and don't ever do it. Now, that AMX is going to get away, but only for a short time, because we are going to kill one more tank in this game, and it is going to be that AMX. But notice he did a lot of damage to that Hetzer.
Permission to engage. I don't see the target.
Okay, so the Hetzer finished off the AMX. I got 7 kills. It is going to be a 7-kill game. And we've got one tank. Now you'll notice that an ally is pointing to a specific sector on the map. I don't know which ally did it. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes your allies will say, oh, I think that the guy might be over here, but they don't know for certain. They just make it up. In fact, I think they're going to point at another sector on the map, which is 2 sectors away, which shows you that they really don't know for sure. But the reality is that the artillery is in that area. So don't point somewhere. In fact, I think an artillery shot just flew in. Don't point somewhere if you don't know for fact where the enemy is, because you're just going to confuse your allies. And I've had games where people said, oh, the enemy's over here, and it ends up he's just not there. Now you'll notice that the Type 95 is saying go cap. It's a very smart idea. In this situation, you absolutely want people to get on the cap. If it's only one tank, that's all you need. I've seen lots of games lost because someone was stupid enough to not get on the cap. Okay, right now you'll see that someone is pointing at the C2 area. There is no enemy tank at the C2 area. Whoever did that should not have done it. Now, unfortunately, you can see that the enemy was lost in battle, which is the enemy artillery. I'll show you where he is. Oh, actually, it didn't show it. Oh, there he is. Okay. That right there, that red tank, you'll notice is an artillery. There's only 2 enemy artilleries. There was this one and the AMX who died earlier. What he did was he went up to that gray solid turret, which was apparently in the A4 area. He fired his gun while he was facing the concrete, and he killed himself. He may have had to fire the gun twice. And people do this because they think that they're denying the enemy team experience and damage and kills. I would have gotten 8 kills, and I think it's stupid. I would have fought to the death. And the reason why is because I want the practice. I would have loved to go 1-on-5 and see how many other tanks I could kill. You know, you want the practice. I would say don't kill yourself. Continue to fight the battle. It's sad that he did that, but it's no big deal. You know, I don't care if I lost a kill or whatever. Okay, so that's the game. I got 7 kills. I'm sorry about the little interruption. This is the Valentine 2. It's a Russian Tier 4 light tank. It is a premium tank. A little bit about this. It's kind of like the Matilda. It's like a miniature Matilda. It's kind of like a Tier 4 heavy tank with a pew-pew gun. It has a rapid fire gun. It probably doesn't do a lot of damage. Let's see how much it does. 47 damage. It's not very much damage at all. The thin-barreled guns reload faster and do less damage. The short, stubby guns or the thick guns do more damage because they obviously have bigger shells. Now, this tank does about 40 kilometers. It is a light tank, but it's not a fast tank. It's a premium tank, which means you purchase it. However, there are British Valentine tanks that you can research, and you can test them out first before you buy the premium tank to get an idea of whether or not you're going to like it. I will say, again, that it is kind of like playing Matilda. It has good armor. It's slow. It's got a rapid fire gun that doesn't do a lot of damage. However, when you're hitting the sides of tanks, you are going to kill a lot of tanks. This was a 7-kill game. I would have had 8 kills. When I play this tank, I usually get 5 or 6 kills. I don't play every tank every day, but again, when I play it, I expect to get a lot of kills. It can penetrate, almost every tank in this particular battle. There's not a lot of premium Tier 4 tanks. There's the AC-1 Sentinel. In terms of comparing this to the Sentinel, I would say this is a better tank if you had to choose between the two. The AC-1 Sentinel has a lot of problems with it. If you're going to spend money on a premium tank and you can only afford the Tier 4 tank, I would say spend the extra money on a Tier 5 premium tank, either the Ram 2, the Excelsior, the Matilda 4, or the Matilda BP. I would say all four of those are better choices than the Valentine 2. This would be a good choice if you like playing the Russian light tanks and you want to train your crew. I would say it's a good choice. I do happen to own every premium tank in the tech tree, and I have more premium tanks and lots of gift tanks, so I have 100 tanks. So I don't offhand remember all the Tier 4 premium tanks, but I don't think that there's a lot of good choices in Tier 4 or even Tier 3 and Tier 2. The T7 car is a good choice, which is a Tier 2 tank, and maybe the M2 light and the M3 light might be good choices. This one, I would say the T7 car is a lot of fun, but I do enjoy this tank. Once you become a good player, you will get a lot of kills with it. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. I do have a clan, which is CBKS, and another clan, which is CBKS2. You're welcome to join. We have a good amount of recruiters. You're welcome to contact one of our recruiters and ask them to join. If you don't hear back, just ask a different recruiter, and someone will surely allow you to join the team. Okay, so that's the game, and if you have any questions or comments, please post below.